Hello, everyone, and today we will be talking about equations. Now, what is an equation? An equation has the equal sign, which means that the equation is true on both sides. And this will make more sense once I write out an equation. For now, we're going to just start with the basic equation example, and then I'll go over linear equations. So an example of an equation is 1 plus 2 equals to 3. Now let's talk a little bit about linear equations, which is the main type of equation that you will find in mathematics, linear equations, quadratic equations, and so on and so forth. So linear equations take on the form of ax plus b equals to c, where a does not equal to 0. So a can't be 0. A linear equation also has the equal sign and has a variable with an exponent of 1. And so let's break that down a little bit. What is a variable? Well, a variable means a letter, basically. It can be any letter, it can be A, it can be X, Y, Z, whatever letter. And an exponent of 1. So let's look at an example with that. Example of a linear equation is 5x equals to 5, where the x is the variable and it contains the exponent of 1. We don't usually mention the 1 and we don't write it down on the equation. But that's just, if nothing's written down, that means that it does carry an exponent of 1. So that's easy. And one thing that I would like you to specifically remember when working with equations is that you do addition, subtraction, and then multiplication and or division. Okay? So let's make sense of this linear equation topic with a few examples. So the first example that I will be going over, example number 1, is 5x plus 3 equals to 8. Now, let's write down the equation again. 5x plus 3 equals to 8. We're going to work on this. And so the very first thing you see here is, here is the variable x. 5 is being multiplied with x, and then we have a plus 3 equals to 8. Whenever you do and solve a linear equation, you want to work with the opposite operation, which means that if we have addition, we are going to do subtraction. If we have multiplication, we are going to do division. Likewise, if we are subtracting, we are going to add. If we're dividing, we are going to multiply. So the very first step here would be to subtract 3 from both sides. And that would cancel out the 3 here, leaving us with a 0. And we can rewrite this equation right here as 5x equals 8 minus 3, which is 5. Now, we notice that the variable x is being multiplied with 5. And so here we would divide by 5. We would do the opposite operation. And here we go. We are dividing by 5 on both sides. You always do the operations on both sides. And you cancel out these 5s because 5 divided by 5 is just 1. And so you are left with the equation x equals to 5 divided by 5, which is 1. So x is equal to 1. Now, how can we check to make sure that our answer is correct for the variable? Well, it's very easy. All you have to do is call substitution. Substitution. We would substitute x equals 1 into the original equation. 5x plus 3 is equal to 8. So if we substitute x for 1, it would be 5 parentheses 1 plus 3 equals to 8. And we notice that yes, 5 plus 3 does indeed equal to 8. The next example is going to look at working with variables in parentheses. So this is using the FOIL method. And this will make more sense once we work on the actual question. So here we're using the method FOIL. Now we have parentheses here. So the very first step you do whenever you work on linear equations with parentheses is we want to make sure that we're multiplying that number in front of the parentheses to each of the numbers within. So here 6 would be multiplied with 2x, and then we would keep that minus sign, and then 6 would be multiplied with 5 equals to 4 being multiplied by 8x, and then keeping that plus sign, and then 4 being multiplied by 7. So if we do that, it will be 6 times 2x. I'll just put it here in parentheses to make sure that it's being easy for. Now 6 times 2 is 12, and we just leave the x as is, minus 6 times 5, which is 30, equals to 4 times 8, which is 32, and you just bring down the x, plus 4 times 7, which is 28. Now, what are we going to do? Here is we are going to move the variables to one side, and it can be to the right side, to the left side, but typically I like to work with the left side. So here we would do 12x minus 32x because we are going to subtract this 32 from both sides, equals to 28 plus 30 because we're moving that 30 to both sides. 12 minus 32 will give us negative 20x equals to 28 plus 30, which is 58. The next step here is just dividing from both sides. So we are going to divide by 20 here. And divide by 20 here. So another way that we could do this, to make it a little bit more clear, is that we can multiply by 1 over 20 and multiply by 1 over 20 here. Because when we do this, negative 20x over 20 will just leave us with a negative x equals to, you bring this part down, it'll be 58 over 20. Now, x can never have that negative in front of it whenever you're solving for x. So the next thing we're going to do, and I'm just going to rewrite that part of the equation onto the next page, we are going to multiply by negative on both sides. So we're going to multiply this with a negative and multiply this with a negative. And I'll just do that in this nice peach color. And on the left side of the equation, we notice that a negative sign is being multiplied with negative x. Now a negative and a negative multiplied together makes a positive. So we have a positive x on the right side equals to a negative 58 over 20 on the left side. Now we can simplify this a little bit more. If we divide by 2, we get 58 divided by 2 is 29, so we get negative 29 over 20 divided by 2 is 10. So we have negative 29 over 10, and that is our answer. That is the value for x. So x is equal to negative 29 over 10. And if you go back and you check it and plug it back into the equation, you'll find that this is indeed correct.